So as I was finishing my last video, and you watched that last video, it made my mind wander a bit, right? And the reason why I made it wander was because I start to think about the future of cryptocurrency. And a lot of people don't do this. They look at what's happening now, and it's always, what have you done for me lately type of thing. If you're invested in crypto, you just want to see something happen today, tomorrow, or maybe even next month. You like to baby step your way into it because it is a speculative market. And with these speculative markets, they become more and more successful when you see different things within that market that's starting to develop and be more of a part of society, a part of different economies, and a part of governments and all of that stuff. And we're seeing that happen right before our eyes. We're seeing the government decide to, create a reserve. We're seeing businesses that are starting to accept different cryptocurrency. We're seeing the ability to partner with banks and businesses and people and seeing the connection for crypto to real life. When I first got into crypto, and I first heavily got into crypto, not necessarily my first investment, when I first got into crypto, the main questions that I received, especially around traditionalist investors, were always, what does it do? Like, what's the purpose of owning cryptocurrency? Right? Because you understand the dollar. Like, you can use it everywhere. Not only in the US, you can literally use it everywhere. It's transferable everywhere and it's accepted everywhere, right? But when it comes to cryptocurrency, that's the question that I couldn't really answer at the time because, I could answer what it's going to do, but not what it does. Because many cryptocurrencies at that time, never even explained exactly where they were going to go. Right? Yes, you can understand use cases and everything, but you don't see those connections yet. And you're like, all right, if it makes sense like that, why are those connections not happening? For instance, Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been around for over a decade at this point. and honestly, I don't know the exact amount of years, but it's been over a decade. It's been a long time. So seeing that amount of time and knowing that from the beginning, it was always about being able to utilize crypto as a form of payment. Why isn't Bitcoin a form of payment everywhere at this point? And mainly because it's a speculative market, as well as at that time, they were thinking that that was the best they were going to get in the amount of time, right? It's better than, cash transferring from bank to bank because that may take, a day. It may take 3 days. It may take 5 days to actually go through. And that's why it's pending. And that's why you have a middleman to make it seem like it happens right now, but it actually doesn't. It's more of like an IOU from one bank to another. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, it could have cut down that time by a lot. By literally days, where you have 15 minutes or something like that to where a transaction goes through. So many people were like, I'm not waiting 15 minutes at the counter, but if you had a middleman like a bank, you would be able to still do the same process, but then cut that middleman time down to 15 minutes. So it's not pending for a crazy amount of hours or days. But then you started developing and you started seeing other things that came up to where things are faster, they're more secure, they're cheaper, they're more energy efficient and all of that stuff that you wanted. And now it's like it costs virtually pennies to go through these transactions. And as long as you have that happen, you can see the transactions go through and it'll happen in seconds, not in minutes, not in hours, not in days, in seconds. So with that being said, understanding the process of where things are now, we're light years ahead of, just being able to explain that. So now if somebody asks me, I can pull up XRP and give them an understanding or an explanation of what XRP will do in the future and what it does now, honestly. Not necessarily about what it does in the future, but what it can do right now. If I send you XRP, it would get to you immediately. So honestly, there is no need for a middleman. But if you can partner with a middleman, that also brings traditionalists back into it. So anyways, this whole thought process, because my brain keeps moving, this whole thought process was brought up because of the fact that the ETF, the Ripple XRP ETF has gone live, and you saw trading, you saw millions of dollars that are going through it, you saw some movement in the last day, it's up a decent amount, like $1.75 in the last day that it was open. But But I look at the list of ETFs, and that's what really brought this to my attention, that we could potentially completely skip the next bear market, which I think is very, very interesting. This could, and this may be just complete speculation, but I want you to save this video and come back to it. If it does happen, then obviously I called it. But if it doesn't happen, then we have to obviously be able to explain, why it didn't happen and the different things that, led to maybe the bear market still happening in that way. So I'm going to explain what I mean here and why I believe that this could be the case. But again, it's totally my opinion. It's complete speculation. It's not saying this 100% fact. It's just my brain works in different ways, and that's why I'm able to be as profitable as I am and see things that happen in the future, see many things, whether it's businesses or business related, cryptocurrency related, all of that stuff. So anyways, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I know that was a long explanation. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell for more of these videos. Also, if you want to get started trading, I have a link for BTCC down below where you guys can get a 10% deposit bonus as well as extra bonuses up to $10,055. And you can get 40% lower trading fees. So feel free to check out that link. It's at the top of the description. Now, again, the reason why this was all brought up is because I was searching for, ETFs. I was searching for some XRP news, and obviously the ETF news here to where you have. I'm trying to go all the way up so I can show that the ETF news here where the ETF was debuted, and you had about $5 million worth of volume and all of that. At the end of that video that I created, it brought up the fact that we could potentially see more people that are starting to invest into ETFs, and not just these single ETFs that we have here, right? We have Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETF, XRP ETFs. We're going to have Solana ETFs, ADA ETFs, all of those things that are there. But those are not the important ETFs. All of these are not the important ETFs. Yes, they get the ground, the ball on the ground rolling. Is that the phrase? They get it moving. They get it to where we need it to get to. However, the more important ETFs are going to be something that include a lot of these cryptocurrencies, right? We're not talking about just Bitcoin. We're talking about something that has 30% Bitcoin, right? 20% Ethereum, 10% XRP, and so on and so forth, right? All-encompassing ETFs that kind of include everything. When you think about the strength of the stock market, when you think about the reason why it doesn't fall as aggressively as something like a cryptocurrency market in these bear markets. The bear markets for a stock market, you might see, 10%, 20%, which is crazy high, right? But if you see 60% or 70% in the crypto market, in the bear market, that's something that's considered low compared to the 90% drop that we saw, previously in previous bear markets, and then 80%. This last one was 75%, I believe. And in some cases, it was a little bit less depending on what you invested into. But for the broader market, it was like 70%. So how can we potentially see a little bit more strength? The way that we see that strength is by these all-encompassing ETFs. And when these do happen, when we do see these, that's where it will create the long-standing strength. Because what do people want to do in the stock market, right? When it comes to consistent growth, where do they invest? They invest with like an ETF. So they're going to go in there and look at an SCHD. That doesn't only include just Charles Schwab like stock or something. It includes things like Verizon and Chevron and many other companies that are included in there and built up to make that ETF. Right now with cryptocurrency, all we have is a Bitcoin ETF that follows Bitcoin. All we have is Ethereum ETF that follows Ethereum, XRP ETF that follows XRP. But when we get to the real money, where people see that consistency in investing into the broader market, because you have nothing right now that gives you that opportunity, that is going to open so many doors and skyrocket crypto to an entirely different level that people are not going to understand why. They're going to start to look at it and they're going to be like, oh, why didn't I invest into this sooner, right? And it's because you didn't see that vision. You didn't see that they were going to do an ETF for just gaming cryptocurrencies, or look at a transaction-based cryptocurrency ETF, or just a broader market, and call it the Crypto 500 ETF, right? Go through the top 500 cryptocurrencies or the top 100 cryptocurrencies and have that where you invest a certain amount based on their market share, based on, whether Bitcoin is 60%, 50%, whatever, you're going to be invested into that ETF that has an all-encompassing thing. And when we see that, which I'm going to say, I think is going to happen in 2026, we're going to see 2025 where all these things happen and people get excited about the individual ones. But then we're going to see 2026, and that's where the conversations are going to start to springboard into, well, what if we have this all lumped together? Would you invest into this all lumped together? Absolutely, I would invest into this all lumped together. But this is something that's going to create the strength that we see in the stock market, in the crypto market, right? Yes, it does give a lot more power to hedge funds and people that have a lot more money, because the more cryptocurrency you have, the more power that you have, right? But either way, we're going to see that happen. No matter what, the people that have the most money are going to buy into something that they truly believe into, or that they see the opportunity to grow and be able to make short-term as well as long-term money, and invest into something that will be here for decades to come, right? So that's what I'm saying here. That I believe 2025 right now is going to be all about the individual ETFs and different developments into adoption, as well as governmental adoption and all that stuff. But then 2026 will be massive for crypto, and we could potentially, I'm not saying that we could potentially skip the bear market entirely, just because we see major movement in these all-encompassing ETFs. And that's just my opinion, if we see those happen. But I think those are a no-brainer. Investing into the top 100 cryptocurrencies as a whole, investing into the market as a whole, and seeing it not just being invested into it, into that position specifically, but being invested into everything, what it feels like. And I think more people would be interested in that than they would be about trying to choose one position, right? If you had a hedge fund or somebody that was tracking all this stuff and picking the best cryptocurrencies that are more consistent movers, that are more utility based or whatever, it'll be huge for crypto. But again, this is all just my opinion. It may not happen at all, but I'm ready for it. And these are the things that if you are ready for and they actually do happen, you're going to make a lot of money by owning individual cryptocurrency and by finding a way to invest into that ETF. Because as soon as one of those ETFs goes live, obviously one of the big ones, bigger name ones with, lesser expense ratio and all that stuff. Once one of those goes live, absolutely, I'm jumping right on board, because it's an opportunity that you don't want to pass up. That's an ETF that I can easily be a part of instead of owning the individual ETF. Most of them, like Ethereum and XRP and Solana and ADA, I own those. So I don't have to worry about buying an ETF because I don't want to be invested directly into crypto. I want to be the kind of third party invested. I want to do that with positions that I really don't own. But I don't own any Bitcoin, but I do own a Bitcoin ETF. So I'll do that with positions I don't own, as well as heavily investing into some of these all-encompassing ETFs. And I mean heavily. Like, we're talking about more than I've invested into any other position that I have here. And a lot of that will flow into there, especially if we can find ones that are going to end up paying a dividend based on the places that they're staking, right? They could stake their cryptocurrency, and if we're getting a dividend payout based on the cryptocurrencies that they're invested into, I'll take that 10 times out of 10, 11 times out of 10, 20 times. I'll take it more than 100%. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Is this a good idea to see an all-encompassing ETF? Do you think that it will explode the cryptocurrency market into the stratosphere, into a place that a lot of people don't believe that we're going to get to, like a $20 trillion market cap, $30 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency overall? Anyways, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.